Okay,
ready to go. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 26th meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. And in response to COVID-19, we continue to hold our council meetings electronically. Members of the public are invited to participate in the meeting of council by accessing the meeting, which is live streamed on our Middlesex Centre YouTube channel. Just before we get into the regular business, I have a couple of announcements and some remarks to make. First of all, I'd like to start with a staff news item. On behalf of council, residents and staff, and in particular the fire department, I want to express our gratitude to Jim Mann, who recently retired from the Delaware Fire Department. Jim's service spanned a half a century, and many of those 50 years past were spent as the chief of that department, leading the firefighters in the Delaware community. One of the firefighters with whom I spoke highlighted a quote that he said made him think of Mr. Mann and how he led his team. And I quote from Coach John Wooden, who said, "The most powerful leadership tool you have is your own personal example." There are many stories, but one in particular illustrates a personal example of Jim's commitment to being a firefighter and clearly reflects the sentiment that's expressed in that quote. One evening while vacationing in Florida, Jim and his family were headed down a highway on their way out for dinner. Suddenly, Jim shouted at his brother-in-law, who was driving the car, to turn around, go back. Apparently, he'd noticed smoke coming from a window of a house they'd just passed, and with no one else in sight, he knew they needed to turn around, go back, and investigate. Jim went to the house and quickly alerted the family, and once the family was safe outside and the fire department was called, Jim and the family continued on their way out for dinner. His values, dedication, professionalism, and commitment, leading by example, averted a tragedy. Jim was also described as a quiet leader by one of the members of the team in Delaware. He always worked to a high standard, one that he wanted all to strive for, and the same one that was expected of every member of the team. Jim was also one to listen to members of his team more than he spoke. He let teamwork together to get things done and then used the experiences and outcomes as a basis for learning. It was clear to me from the conversations that his approach to leadership did not go unnoticed and that the team didn't want to let him down. His involvement in and commitment to the community is also well recognized. He's described as the man with the highest level of integrity and inner strength. He truly puts the man in humanitarian. Thank you, Mr. Mann, for your dedication and long-term service to your community. And as you begin your retirement, we wish you good health, adventures, and time with your family and friends. Again, congratulations and best wishes for the future. The second item is with regard to the upcoming vaccination clinic. Starting in January earlier this year, the Middlesex London Paramedic Services team has been hosting vaccination clinics across the whole county. One of these was held in Ilderton on January 13th, where 331 shots were administered. The next round of vaccinations in Middlesex Centre will be administered in Coldstream at the Community Hall next Tuesday, February 1st. So keep an eye on the Middlesex Centre website and get all the details and come and get your booster or your first shot or wherever you are on that spectrum. I want to say thank you also to the team at the Middlesex London Paramedic Services, to all of the SERV volunteers for helping out at the clinics, and all of those people who've been involved in planning, coordinating, doing all the work required to deliver the program to so many different sites across the whole county. It's amazing everything that gets done when you're partners with others and you get it all accomplished. So again, I want to say thanks to all of you. Moving on to the agenda then, there are no additions and I wasn't made aware of any disclosures of pecuniary interest. So we can move now to item 4.1, which is the IT master plan presentation. I see that Graham Pressey and John Noss they're both here and they will be presenting the document. There we go. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
The floor is yours if you'd like to make the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen and we'll get started. Yeah. All right, perfect. Hopefully everyone can see my presentation.
All is good.
Excellent. We're off to a good start. Well, thank you very much for your time this evening. In terms of agenda, we're talking about the municipality's first IT master plan, and quite timely. Today, we'll take you through just a little bit of the current situation. Then we'll spend the majority of time talking about what we believe needs to change. And that's basically the path forward. We've got a slide on the roadmap in terms of next steps and how we see the sequencing of these initiatives taking form. And then finally, just to wrap up again, just to reiterate, well, what's the value? What's the value to the resident for doing these things? So to start, one of the things that we always like to do is look at the organization's current situation, and more particularly the corporate strategy. And one of the things that was quite evident as we undertook this review was the corporate strategy for the municipality recognizes the importance of technology. And for me, that's really important, especially for smaller municipalities, to understand that there is quite a bit that technology can add. I just need to make sure that it's well placed. As you can see before you, we basically took a bit of a snapshot of some of the key elements from your corporate strategy. But more specifically, the things that really anchored and kind of really resonated as we kind of went through your corporate strategy was around that municipal governance. And there was 3 objectives that were very kind of clear to me that align well to some of the recommendations and priorities that we see as it relates to technology. And the first one being enhancing customer service. The second one, fostering a culture of innovation, continuous improvement, and cost-effective service delivery. And last, expand our partnerships. Through our analysis of both the current state, so where you are today in terms of your use of technology, as well as kind of corporate priorities, we've set forth 7 strategic priorities for IT to undertake and focus areas. We've outlined them here, and I'm going to step through each one of them, but just briefly, you can see it covers quite a broad spectrum, everything from improving resiliency, enhancing how IT delivers its services to the municipality today, how you govern IT and the decisions around it, the policies and procedures that IT uses to deliver some of those services. There's a component around modernizing some of the municipality systems, optimizing what we call service channels, which again, we know that there's some work already intended for that space, and we suggest leveraging some of that. And lastly, being able to keep up with technology. And I know that is difficult, but there is ways to enhance and make sure that you can keep up as best you can. So we'll jump right into it. And the first initiative that we have in priority is around improving the municipality's IT resilience. And I think it comes no surprise to everyone on the call here. Imagine 2 years ago, we'd be doing this in person, not through a Zoom call. So much more higher reliance for staff to deliver resident services through technology, and whether that's them working from home, working from the office, or even residents accessing services. So there's a more heightened need to make sure that the IT and technology that you have in place is resilient, both from it's available and it's performing well, but also from a security perspective. And this initiative largely focuses on taking some of the infrastructure that you have at your current municipal office and moving it to the county's data center. They've got quite a bit of investment that they've made into that facility. And instead of trying to build that within your own, you can take advantage of that. And what you get out of that is improved resilience in terms of availability of services. So if something breaks from a technology perspective, other aspects will kick in so the service is still available. Improved response time. So county IT, they provide your services today. Instead of potentially having to drive to the municipal office, it's in the county office, and they're able to access it much easier. And lastly, improved security and cyber readiness. There's certain security aspects that the county has, and by moving some of your equipment into their office, you'll be able to take advantage of. Lastly, one of the other aspects of the first initiative is also increasing some of the bandwidth. And again, part of the reason for that, I'm sure it's evident, but there's more use of internet and the network, and therefore we need a bit more bandwidth so that you're able to keep up with things. So that's the first. The second is what we've called enhanced IT service delivery. And as I've mentioned, Obviously, county IT is your delivery or IT department, as it were. You've got a contract today, and what we've suggested is some refinement, which is quite normal kind of activity that over a period of time for any kind of outsourcing or shared service arrangement, you're going to look at that contract to make sure it's fit for purpose. What we've suggested here is to revise some of the service descriptions and the service levels, so what you expect in terms of targets and measures from the county, as well as reporting requirements. So typically on a monthly basis, you get almost a bit of a dashboard or report card on those services that you're receiving and the performance that's related to it. We've also suggested a slightly different model in terms of the IT service delivery, which is piloting an on-site program where you've got someone from IT that is basically on-site periodically throughout the month, and whether that's every Tuesday that someone comes in. And again, as there's kind of that hybrid work environment, people working from the office, just making sure that someone is on-site to react to any on-site issues. And the benefit we're expecting to see from this initiative is, again, improved service levels and from the county, as well as improved data. And again, that comes back to the dashboard. So being able to see how well is IT performing and making any decisions on that. Do we need to change anything? The next, number 3, we have revised IT governance. And what we've suggested here is today, which is quite common, the governance is ad hoc and slightly informal. What we're suggesting is, because of the importance of IT, that it gets a bit more formalized. County IT is involved and has more regular meetings with the municipality, and is able to even listen in on some of the projects and activities and things that are happening at the municipality, so that they can get advanced warning of maybe some projects and things. So that's one aspect. The second is what we've described as, it's called a change advisory committee. And this is a common kind of IT group that would meet, and effectively their role is to coordinate changes. So when a change is made to a server or a system, there's communication with the business to make sure that, one, they're aware of it, 2, if something happens, to get a hold of them, and 3, even just from a scheduling perspective, making sure that there's certain times of the year. I know budgeting season is definitely not a time to make changes to the accounting system. So making sure there's that kind of coordination and communication and having some structure around that. So that's the other element. The last element that we're suggesting here is for county IT to establish some type of external IT committee, and by that we mean other member municipalities within the county, so we can coordinate activities and maybe take advantage of some of the projects that are underway. In some cases, it can be just purely around procurement activities. In other cases, it can be projects that one or more of the member municipalities would take advantage of. And again, some of the benefits there is, improving some of that planning, that strategic outlook, so that you can plan accordingly in terms of budgeting, maybe take advantage of some of the activities from other municipalities, potentially decreasing some of the hardware and software and service costs as a consequence of that. Number 4, improve IT policies and procedures. As we looked at the policies, there's a good amount of policies in place. What we're suggesting here is firstly, security and cybersecurity is very top of mind, and I think will be for at least the near future. What we're suggesting is connecting the IT risks to some of those enterprise risk management practices that the municipality has, so that IT risks don't just stay within IT, they actually get a broader perspective within the municipality, so there's greater awareness, and potentially also assessing those risks. What does it mean for the municipality? Is there anything else any other steps that the municipality should undertake? The other portion of this initiative is creating a revised process to create and formalize some of the IT procedures that happen today. And I'll use the example of changes because that can be a frequent one that can cause some challenges, or incident management. So having some formalized steps on, this is what county IT will do, and this is the interaction points between the municipality and county IT as it relates to an incident or a change. And we've got a few IT procedures that we've identified. Lastly, with that, and related to it, is review of policies and procedures as it relates to IT should change the frequency to annually. And partly it's just the pace of change with technology, that you need to really look at kind of policies and procedures more regularly than what it is today, which I believe it's 3 years. The benefits as it relates to this initiative is kind of approved identification and maybe proactive management of some of IT risks, and then also improved IT effectiveness, better user experience, more consistent experience. So whether I've worked with one IT person from the county on a particular incident, and the next time it should be very consistent, it should be the same way. Number 5, modernizing the municipality systems. When we looked at the systems that the municipal has, great, have been modernized and actually good use of technology. The only area that, 2 areas that we really kind of looked at that we thought could use more attention was replacing the accounting system. So it's something that I know is already kind of understood, but definitely want to make sure that it doesn't lose focus on replacing that accounting system in the near future, and integrating where possible now some of the key systems that you have with GIS, which is the Geographical Information System. So it's all the information around your assets and things like that from a mapping perspective. And again, what we're seeing as time evolves is that these systems need to integrate and talk to each other more. It makes your staff more productive. They don't have to rekey information. It's already there. It reduces errors and omissions as well. The last bullet with this one, which is around creating more formal training to ensure that staff have the necessary skills and understanding of the systems. Again, you've got a very diverse group of staff, from very young and were born with the internet to others which wasn't the case, and their training needs vary. And with new and more technology being rolled out, we just need to make sure that everyone has a certain baseline and support in terms of training, so that they're able to use the systems and technology to its fullest. So from a benefit, reducing some of that manual effort by integrating some of the systems and improving some of the legacy system that you have, and also making sure that you've got that integration, and lastly, the training, which should help to make sure that you're getting full utilization of your systems. Number 6, continue to add and enhance resident services. Obviously, during COVID, there's been a real push to enhance and make the online experience as best possible. There's always a balancing act, and I understand that. We worked with a lot of other smaller municipalities, which have a mix of kind of that rural, which may not have the best internet connection, but overall, there's certain resident channels on the website, those that can use it and prefer to use that, making sure that they've got that self-service. In other cases, if it isn't, things like over the phone type service, and making sure that there are some enhancements there so that they're able to do as much as they can self-service wise, or at least access services and staff that can help them. So again, here, what we're suggesting is reviewing the existing channels that you have, the website, the telephony, and also in-person services, and revise it to make sure that 1, we've got a consistent experience, and 2, that they're able to do as much as they can in terms of self-service. Lastly, planning for the future. We never know what's going to happen with technology. We just probably know that there's going to be more use of it. So setting up what we've suggest here is an annual innovation working session within the municipality. Usually what we find is that staff and management actually do have some great ideas. They have usually a good handle on what some of the issues and challenges are. So it's a matter of finding some free time to get those individuals together, collaboratively work together on ideas that may address some of those problems. You may have heard the term hackathon, where you've got different groups together, maybe some individuals from Recs and Services, some from corporate services together to work on a project, get some different perspective on a problem, so you can take that forward. Can be a fun team building exercise as well. Again, creating a bit of structure around not just the innovation side of things, but also how you might prioritize some of the output of those initiatives. The benefit here is you get a bit more structure around how do we identify problems, how do we look at innovative solutions, and then how do we take that forward. And again, also hopefully in a lower cost. And over time, as you refine this and you get better at it, instead of the old school way of taking on a project where you've kind of invested all up front. You might be doing some smaller piloting to say, yes, is this something that is valuable and we're getting the benefits we expected, or no, we're not, and we can drop that and then start on something else. So those are the 7 key priorities that we've outlined. The strategy is meant to cover 5 years, and just to be brutally honest, I mean, my whole career has been dedicated to working in technology. 5-10 years ago, we could do a 5-year plan. Now, what you see is usually 3 years, and I can with certainty here, and with the amount of projects that you have relating to IT, we've effectively outlined a 3. Some of them bleed into that 4 and 5 year. But again, I imagine in 3 years' time, things are going to change drastically, and you'll need to probably revisit some of these things. I expect that maybe some of these things also may get bumped as well. But we've worked with management to overlay what we think is, one, reasonable in terms of capacity, but also urgency, as well as dependency. So those are the criteria that we use to build this roadmap. And last slide before I open it up for questions, but where does this take the municipality? And I do think it's important to present what we see as the future value of undertaking this IT master plan. And there's 2 aspects to it from my perspective, which, one, there's value that the residents will see and experience, and there's others that will have more of an impact on staff and an indirect on residents, and that being maybe more productive staff. You might be able to take on more workload, better responsive time, better customer experience. And one thing that I've always found is if you give the right tools to staff, they're usually a little bit happier, which means that when they're servicing customers and residents, that in turn flows through. Thank you very much for your time. I'll take any questions from council. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I will look to council. If we end the share screen part there, maybe I can't see everybody right now. That's it.
How's that? Is that better?
That is better. It's just a lot. Thank you for that, John. Okay, council, questions for the presenters. Yes, Councillor Arts.
Through your Madam Mayor to John, I just have one question. The chart that's on page 9, on the bottom, a legend, it says, I think it says project effort. And I just, that terminology, I've never heard that before. I think that's what it says. It's kind of blurred.
Through your worship, that's right. And what we're trying to distinguish is kind of the project effort to kind of basically implement the project. And then in some cases, it's done. There's nothing else that needs to be done. In other cases, there's kind of a reoccurring activity that's required for that project. So if I use the first example, improve the municipality's IT resilience, in 2022, second half, we basically, you see a chevron there. So we'd expect some activity for moving the technology that you have at your current municipal office to the county IT office. That's kind of a defined piece of work. It would end in 2023. There's a kind of a cyber activity that then occurs there. So there's no kind of in between there. There's no ongoing effort for that particular initiative. Whereas others there is.
Thank you.
Other questions? Oh, I don't see any. I've got one. It's a general question, I guess. We're looking at this as a 5-year plan. But when I look at the initiatives that you've identified, in some ways to me, they're not limited by 5 years. I mean, focusing on enhancing our service delivery as far as IT is concerned, I don't think that's going to stop in 5 years. Are we really redoing the whole strategy in 5 years, or are we maybe just identifying new ways, new technologies, things that have developed in those categories of improving our resilience or enhancing our service or improving our policies and procedures? Seems to me this is kind of a living document in ways, except the little things that we're working on, all the component pieces are going to be the moving parts rather than the overall kind of initiatives and objectives of an effective and good system in IT plan, master plan for our organization.
through your worship, in a sense, you're absolutely right, and I would see it almost as things evolve. And I imagine if we had if we had done a strategy 3 or 5 years ago, that, and I'll pick on one specifically just because I know there's been quite a bit of work over the last few years. But modernizing your municipal systems, there's been quite a bit of work over a period of time. So it's an evolution, absolutely, and I think, whether you choose to use these terms going forward and in your next strategy, it's absolutely fine. The activities would change. The focal point would probably change, and it would evolve, I imagine. So yeah.
Well, that's great. Thank you for that. Then, well, I always find these interesting when we can improve our effectiveness and efficiency and manage the cost benefit. I think these are always good exercises, and I appreciate your efforts. And I'm looking forward to how this is all implemented and what we'll be doing next. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and hope everyone has a great evening.
Thank you very much. All righty, we can move now to the adoption of the minutes. We have a motion before us that the minutes of the council meeting held on January 12th, 2022 be adopted as printed. Do I have a mover? Councillor Shipley, and a seconder, Councillor Cates. Any opposed? Seeing none, then the minutes are carried. We have our consent agenda. There are 4 items on it. Is there anything here that a councillor would like to remove for further action or for questions, clarifications? Yes, Councillor Arts.
I have some questions, but I didn't know whether this was the time to say that or.
Yes, before we adopt these for recommendation, go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, I don't know if you call it a question or an observation. It's about the fire department. And the report says we have a lot of applications for fire positions, but I was wondering how many of them actually live and work in Middlesex Center? Because I say this because in the middle of the day, if you have a 10-minute response time, you have to have a certain core of volunteer firefighters to be living and working in close proximity to the fire station. I've had some conversations with younger people, and they live and work in the community, and they just say, we don't have enough time to become a volunteer fireman. They're young, they have a social life, got significant others, maybe they're starting a family, they might work in a business where 60-hour weeks are frequently. It's just, and these are the ones that we want. They're here to stay. They're putting down roots. They're going to be 20, 30-year employee. And they might show up to fire practice in their dirty clothes because they haven't had even time to go home to have supper, but they'll be there. So I realize that our training regulations are governed by the higher ups, but something's going to have to change because it's not just our municipality. We're going to run out of that core group of firefighters that we have to have. So that's my rant. Sorry.
Thank you. I'll look to the chief, who's coming on now. Thank you. Colin, would you like to address the question?
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. Through you to Councillor Arts. Yeah, this is definitely a problem that's plaguing all fire departments across Canada, actually, and paid on call professional departments, and we're definitely no different. The big thing here is out of the numbers that apply, a lot of them are local. As you can see, we have hired a lot that are local. The problem is that a lot of them do not work local, and this is the problem. So unless they're part of our farming community or they work in the communities, it's a challenge. The higher ups in regards to training really refer to the industry and liability mitigation as it applies to the municipality, and certification. Certification, I mentioned this a number of years ago, actually. There was a legislation that came through, a regulation under the Fire Protection Prevention Act that required certification under industry standards, which in this case is NFPA requirements. And that was rescinded, but it's now coming back. We're having town halls on that with the Fire Marshal's office and the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs and the Governor's office, the Solicitor General's office right now. So that is a challenge, and you are right. But my senior chiefs and I are deploying a lot of different options. Unfortunately, they're not all quick solutions. So it is definitely being looked into.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Follow-up, Councillor? No. All right, Councillor Cates, I see your hand.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Colin. Good report. I always read these with such great, great detail. One question that I have is, I'm just not sure which one, but in a general question is, Delaware has such a higher number. Is some of that due to the 402 being right there? Do they respond to a lot on the 402?
Through you, Mayor.
Like motor vehicle accidents, I mean.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Cates. Actually, our calls to the 401 and 402 are small pieces, are real minimal additions to our motor vehicle collisions. Delaware is just a definitely busy area. They've got a lot of real estate to manage down there, and it is a high population for sure.
Thank you.
Nobody else? Okay. Any other items that somebody else would like to raise? I don't see any hands. So in that case, we do have a motion before us that agenda items 6.1 through 6.4 listed under the heading of consent agenda for January 26, 2022 be adopted as recommended. A mover, please. Councillor Cates, and seconded by Councillor Heffernan. Any opposed? I don't see any, then that is carried then. Thank you. Okay, moving on to staff reports. The first item relates to the master plan presentation we just saw. We have a motion before us that report CPS 04-2022 Information Technology IT Master Plan from 2022 through to 2026 be received, and that the Middlesex Centre IT Master Plan for 2022 through 26 January 2022 as developed by the municipal staff and Blackline Consulting pended to report CPS 04-2022 be approved, and further that the recommendations contained in the plan be reviewed on an annual basis as a part of the municipality's budget deliberations. Mover, please. Councillor Cates and Deputy Mayor Brennan. Any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried then. Thank you. The next item is going to be a presentation from our CAO on joint and several liability, item 7.2. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the Mayor to members of Council, the intent of this report is in response to information that was received from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. And this is something that's been taking place for many years now in terms of updating legislation as it deals with joint and several liability with the 1% rule. And so this information that was just recently published from AMO is asking municipalities to support an initiative to look at 7 principles that would assist municipalities from a risk management perspective. When I'm sure a lot of municipalities across the province over time have experienced cases where it only takes fault to be found on a small part of the municipality to be responsible for the majority of the claim. And so ideas and papers have been published over time. And the intent of this report is, if Council is supportive, we would go behind AMO's intent to lobby the government to undertake another review to see in which we can maybe look at a different way and to manage these types of claims. So it's not, the burden isn't all placed on municipalities. And so the recommendation is written in such a way that we can then provide information to our MPP and to the Solicitor General and the Office of the Premier to look at reviewing this situation.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Cates.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Michael, I just wanted to say that's quite a read. That information was very interesting. So I'm definitely in favor of this.
Anyone else? It was at Roma, I believe, that we heard the answers to the question in the roundtable question answer period from the Minister of the Solicitor General, was it, that suggested that they were going to be moving forward with assessing whether or not, in fact, there is a causal relationship between the increasing costs of insurance to municipalities and the actual incidents. So I don't know what everyone else's reaction to that was. I was not necessarily totally pleased to hear that that would be the first action, but I guess it's a first step. And if that causal relationship is there, then I guess the government will move forward. But as Councillor Case said, it's quite a read, and puts quite a burden on all municipalities. In fact, I know from AMO meetings that a number of municipalities are finding it difficult to even get insurance because of different claims and so forth. And that is even after they've split up all of their lines of business and attempted to get insurance for specific things. So I think it's a timely report. If Council wishes, then we have a motion before us that the report from CAO 3, number 3, 2022 regarding a call to action on joint and several liability be received, and that the Municipality of Middlesex Centre supports the 7 recommendations contained in the AMO submission as noted in the report, and further that the resolution and copy of report CAO 3, 2022 be forwarded to the Office of the Premier and the local member of Provincial Parliament. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Scott, anyone opposed? Seeing none, then that is carried. Thank you very much, Council. I see Rob has already appeared on the screen, and we'll look to see to hear your presentation on the purchase of the tractor and trailer. Go ahead, Rob.
Sure. Yep. Good evening, members of Council. So this report is seeking an amendment to the 2022 fleet capital budget in order to take advantage of an opportunity to purchase a used highway tractor and live bottom trailer that has presented itself. The total purchase price for the two together is $95,000 plus our share of the non-refundable portion of the HST. The highway tractor is a 2004 model year and the trailer is 2013. Both have been inspected by a third-party mechanic, with the inspection finding only minor defects. The municipality uses a variety of trucks to complete various tasks within the municipality, and having the right equipment for the job increases our efficiency. The purchase of this truck and trailer will allow us to increase efficiency within several tasks, such as sand hauling, tarring and chip, gravel hauling, and salt hauling. The net increase in the hauling capacity with this combination will be approximately 40 tons, which exceeds the capacity of 3 tandem trucks. So essentially utilizing this, and there's some reconfiguration with our existing equipment. The trailer would go with the new trailer would go with one of the existing trucks, and our existing trailer would be used with this used truck that would be purchased. But essentially the load capacity of this would replace 3.3 tandem trucks. The efficiencies will be realized by utilizing the new truck and trailer in place of 3 tandem trucks for these activities, reducing the need for drivers on these projects and reducing the number of trucks required. While we will not realize cost savings through the staff reduction, it will free up staff availability to undertake other necessary work that we may not be able to address otherwise or would potentially need to outsource. The truck and trailer will generally not be used throughout the winter season, so exposure to salt will be minimized, which will help extend the life of the equipment. So staff are recommending the purchase of this vehicle and trailer as we feel it is a good opportunity for the trial of purchasing used fleet assets and as a trial to see what actual efficiencies are realized through the use of these additional assets prior to considering future replacement. Based on our high-level assessment of anticipated efficiencies, we expect to see a full return on investment in less than 4 years. When we've looked at our breakdown, the efficiencies in labor cost alone would cover the capital investment in a 4-year period, and that's not including any of the savings in fuel or wear on the other vehicles. I'm happy to answer any questions that members of council may have at this time.
Thank you for that presentation. Let's start with Councillor Arts and then Councillor Heffernan.
Through your Madam Mayor to Rob, when Councillor Shipley and I were on the budget committee, that was one of our questions, is why do we always have to buy new stuff? So live by the words I said, so I'm in favor of this. Thank you.
Councillor Heffernan?
Just a comment, even though this is a used truck, I'm very surprised that the Zamboni costs more than the truck. So anyways, just a comment.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Councillor Shipley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to echo what Councillor Hart said, we did bring this up, I think budget before or 2 years ago, and then the budget this year again. And I think it's a good opportunity to try this situation. You know, if it doesn't work, we haven't got a lot of money is invested in capital. I'm hoping to see it does work. We continue on buying some good used equipment.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I don't see any hands. In that case, we have a motion before us that Public Works and Engineering Report number 4, 2022 regarding the budget amendment for used highway tractor and trailer be received, and that the purchase of the used highway tractor and live bottom trailer be awarded to Roy Winnacott Trucking in the amount of $95,000, excluding HST, and that the 2022 budget be amended to add a new capital cost of $95,000 plus the non-refundable HST portion, and that the funds be taken from the General Vehicles and Equipment Reserve Fund, and further that the mayor and the clerk be authorized to execute any necessary documents. Mover, please, and seconder. Councillor Shipley and Councillor Arts, all in favor, pardon me, anyone opposed? And that is carried. Thank you for that report. We'll move on now to the item 7.4, which is applications for the official plan amendment, OPA 50, and the zoning bylaw amendment for the lands on Dosset Drive, which is filed by Slinka Priamo. And I see Marion's on the screen. So if you'd like to present the report, please.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Council. So the report before you tonight is to provide a recommendation to defer the requested official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications for the lands on Dosset Drive. The purpose and effect of the official plan amendment is to convert or redesignate the land from highway commercial to a medium density residential zone, designation, and rezone the lands to a new site-specific urban residential third density zone. The effect of these amendments would permit the development of 54 medium-density residential units in the form of townhouses, stacked townhouses, or even low-rise apartments on the subject lands. The lands are approximately 1.09 hectares in area and located at the southeast corner of Glendon Drive and Jeffrey Drive, and is part of the land that contains the home hardware store and future commercial buildings. So the lands are currently vacant and not subject to any site plan agreements that do apply to the area where the home hardware is located. The applications were before council at a public meeting in June of 2020 and again in August of 2021. Since this time, there have been no changes to the requested official plan or rezoning applications by the applicants. At the 2021 meeting, the August 2021 meeting, council deferred the application until a municipal comprehensive review was completed, and this was the comprehensive review that was part of the official plan review. So in October of 2021, so last fall, the municipality received the draft growth management study, which was completed by Watson and Associates. And this study primarily focused on employment and residential land needs for the planning horizon. However, it did include a brief analysis for the commercial lands. Specifically, this draft study determined that there is a sufficient supply of vacant or underutilized lands for commercial uses, noting a small shortfall for the planning horizon, but specifically the Kamoka and Kilworth area met the long-term demands with its existing supply. So staff specifically noted concerns with these applications that if we continue to redesignate commercial lands, the supply of commercial lands would continue to deplete, especially if they're removed for non-commercial or non-employment uses. Additionally, the location has proven to be successful for commercial opportunities, noting that the planned and proposed commercial expansions that are on the site as well. In addition to the removal of the commercial lands from the supply, there are noted concerns related to the density and the generated traffic from the proposed residential uses. And while staff do support the intensification of residential uses where possible, it should be appropriate for the site and for the area and not negatively impact area residents. Noting the analysis provided in the staff report and all available information, staff are of the opinion that the requested designation cannot be supported on this site and continue to support the planned commercial uses. With that being said, we would also not be in a position to support the requested rezoning as requested by the applicant. However, staff are recommending deferral at this time, and this is to give the applicant opportunity to provide any supplementary information to justify the conversion of the commercial lands to support their applications. As noted in Watson Associates growth management study, further analysis can be made for the commercial lands within Camopa and Kilworth or throughout the entire municipality, or a supplementary market study or a similar type of analysis that can be completed by the applicant. And any new information that can be provided would be reviewed by staff prior to making any recommendations. So I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you for that presentation. Mr. Zelinka and Caitlin Crawley are in attendance. They have an opportunity to comment and respond. They have 5 minutes. I don't see them on the line yet, but I think they're coming. They're on their way. Here we go.
Hi, through you, Madam Mayor. My name is Caitlin Crowley. I would just like to say good evening to everyone, staff, council, and members of the public who are in attendance here tonight. My name is Caitlin Crowley, planner with Zelinka Priamo. Here with me also is our principal planner, Richard Zelinka. We are here on behalf of Orange Rock Developments, who is the applicant and owner for this property. We would first like to thank Marion for her work on this file. We have read the provided staff report. At the council meeting held on August 11th, 2021, this application was deferred on staff's recommendation until more supporting documents were available. Since that time, as Marion mentioned, staff and council have received additional reports, including the growth management study prepared by Watson and Associates. We had anticipated that the growth management study and its findings that were there is generally adequate, and its findings that there is generally adequate commercial land supply in Camoka-Kilworth would be sufficient to support the applicant's requested OPA and ZBA. However, in further discussions with Marion, we understand that your planning staff would like further analysis of the commercial land needs and supply from the applicant in order to provide support for the proposed change from employment lands to residential lands. At the time this property was being considered for commercial development, the then owner and the municipality anticipated that there be access on Glendon Drive, or at least restricted turns access. However, the county, of course, did not support this access proposal, and therefore this easterly portion of the property is now restricted to have access via Jeffries Road through the Home Hardware and additional commercial proposed development on Glendon Drive, or to have restricted access on Dossett Drive. This portion of the site subject to this application cannot fulfill the planning expectations for how the lands subject to this application, so these lands are furthest east from the existing commercial entrance on Jeffries Road and furthest from the intersection and have no other commercial access opportunities. The shape of the easterly portion of the property and its restricted access makes this a low priority site for any possible commercial development. Moreover, the proposed medium density provides a more appropriate transition between the existing residential uses to the east and the existing and future commercial land uses on the property. The proposed residential development is designed in a way to be attractive to the aging 55+ farming and settlement population in the community. The growth management report provided indicates that this is a necessarily population to accommodate. With the proposed amendment for residential use, residential access can be obtained from Dosset Drive. This is a similar access arrangement to the existing condo development to the east. The proposal aims to add more medium density residential development to Kamoka Kilworth on a parcel of land that is well suited for residential and poorly suited for any form of commercial development. We are of the opinion that the best form of development for this site specifically would be residential. Thank you for your time and consideration this evening. While we, of course, would like council endorsement of our OPA ZBA application for residential use, we have indicated that we are willing, in accordance with staff recommendation, to go back and prepare additional analysis if council is of the opinion that such additional documentation is important for the proper consideration of this proposed change. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation then. I'll look to council. Questions, comments? Councillor Cates.
I have just a question to a comment that Caitlin made. I'm just wondering about your comment about this being for 55 plus community or, you know, attracted to that age group. I'm just wondering why it's not, you know, single family or what makes it specific to that.
We are intending to make the building more accessible to the aging population so that residents can, quote unquote, age in place. So that is the idea, you know, larger farming families who wish to retire from the farming industry, but stay in Kamoka Kilworth. These kind of apartment style buildings would allow for them to retire within the community.
Okay, other questions? Seeing none then, there is a motion before us that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 09-2020 and official plan amendment application OPA 50 filed by Zelinka Priamo Limited on behalf of 756949 Ontario Limited to redesignate and rezone the land for a 54-unit medium density residential development be deferred. Is there a mover? And Councillor Heffernan, Deputy Mayor Brennan. Anyone opposed? That is unanimous and carried, and we will wait to hear back. All righty then. The next item is to move to a committee of adjustment. We need a motion for council to adjourn the regular meeting in order to sit as the committee of adjustment under section 45 of the Planning Act as amended, to consider minor variance applications listed on the January 26, 2022 council agenda. Just to open the meeting then, members of the public that are participating virtually in this evening's public meetings have previously provided notification to the municipal clerk in advance of the meeting. If anyone wishes to receive further notification on any of the minor variance applications that are being considered tonight, I ask that you please send an email to planning@middlesexcenter.on.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record for full disclosure. If you have questions on any of the applications being heard this evening, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on file. Members of the public that have requested to speak will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address council and provide comments on the applications. In keeping with our procedural bylaw and our RSM policy, I would like to remind all of our meeting participants to use respectful language and to uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. All righty, so the first item tonight is oops, wrong page, pardon me. Too many pages here. 4, 5. Oh, procedure. I've got it. Yes, sorry. All righty. So the order of procedure is the same for each application, and the order of procedure is as follows. First, I will ask the planner to present the purpose of the application and hearing and to present the staff report. Then the applicant or their agent has an opportunity to speak to that application. The public who have registered and asked for their comments will be asked for their comments and questions. I ask that you please state your name and your address so that comments can be reflected in the minutes. The municipal clerk will provide any additional comments received from circulated agencies and the public not included in that planning report. The committee may then ask questions of the applicant or staff, and then we will consider motions regarding the applications. So the first item that we have on our agenda is one for minor variance, file number A43, 2021, and Mr. Fitzgerald is the planner. If you'd like to give your report, Dan.
The chair, thanks, Madam Mayor, members of the. So the purpose and effect of this minor variance application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw as it does relate to the maximum gross floor area for an accessory building that is located in the agricultural A1 zone. So in this instance, the applicant is requesting maximum size of 218 square meters, represented as 2.7% coverage, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum of the lesser of 165 square meters or 3% lot coverage. And the effect of the proposal is essentially to facilitate the construction of an accessory building, which was stated for the purpose of vehicle storage, equipment, as well as maintenance machinery. So hopefully everyone can see the location map. So the subject property is located at 1712 Gainsborough Road. It has a frontage of approximately 66 meters on Gainsborough and an area of approximately 1.95 acres. It's on the south side, east of the intersection at Van Eck and Gainsborough, and the lands contain a single detached dwelling, which is currently under construction. The applicant is proposing to construct a new accessory building, once again for the stated purpose of storage of vehicles, recreational equipment, as well as lawn maintenance equipment for the property. At the proposed size of 218 square meters, the applicant is essentially seeking a minor variance of 53.5 square meters. And as lot coverage is 0.7% in this particular instance. It is bordered by large agricultural lands on all. It's designated agricultural area in the Middlesex County official plan, agricultural in Middlesex Center's official, and as noted, it's zoned the agricultural A1 zone in the bylaw. One comment has been received during circulation of the application from the public, which was objecting to the proposal. It noted the objection of housing potential commercial or business in the future. Concerns were also raised respecting the grading and drainage of the lands, and then specifically also noted a concern regarding the existing shed on site and its removal. So as a note to members of the committee as well as the public, the variance only permit a max size of 218 square meters for all accessory buildings on the lands. As such, any other building that is on property would have to be removed prior to the issuance of a building permit if they do max out that total square footage with one building. So staff note that the intent of the applicant is to construct an accessory building, which is located on the east interior side yard behind the main dwelling. Based on the site plan provided, staff are satisfied that the proposal does meet the intent of the 4 tests for minor variance, subject to the condition recommended in the planning report. As stated, that the owner warrant building storage equipment related to the residential use of the lands, and that it shall not contain dwelling units or home occupations / commercial and industrial businesses. Given the above, planning staff are recommending that the proposal be granted. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. I will now look to the applicant or their agent. They're not. Okay. And I will then look to the committee. Are there questions, comments? Seeing none, then we have a motion before us that minor variance application A43 2021 filed by Bella and Pedro da Silva for relief from the zoning bylaw in order to establish a maximum size for all accessory buildings on the land of 280 square meters or 2.7% lot coverage, whereas the zoning bylaw permits a maximum size of the lesser of 165 square meters of gross floor area or 3% lot coverage for lots larger than 5,000 square meters for property municipally known as 1712 Gainsborough Road be granted subject to the following condition: that the owner warrants that the accessory building shall only be used for the explicit purpose of storage related to the residents on the lands and shall not contain a dwelling unit or home occupation or commercial or industrial use. And that the reasons for approving the minor variance application A43-2021 include: the request is considered to comply with the general intent and purpose of the Middlesex Center zoning bylaw and official plan. The request is considered to be minor in nature, subject to the conditions listed in the report, and the request represents appropriate development on the subject property. I'm looking for a mover, please. Councillor Scott, and seconded by Councillor Cates. Is anyone opposed? And that is carried. Thank you very much, everyone. We can now move to items 8.2, which is again Mr. Fitzgerald's file. Go ahead with that report.
Through the chair to the committee. So this application is a minor variance, also seeking relief for the maximum personal gross floor area for an accessory building, which is located in the residential first density, community residential first zone, exception 5. In this particular case, we did circulate the notice and then provide a report. Upon circulation of the report and publishing, I did realize that there was an error in this particular application, specific to the size as quoted in the applicant's submission. There was 2 separate sizes located on the drawings, and it appears they have made an error in their request for 260 square meters. It's actually much larger than that at 326 meters squared. So in light of that, and in view of full transparency to the public, I am recommending the application so it can be re-advertised and that the application be brought back to the February 16th meeting with a revised report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. We have a motion before us then to defer this item to the February 16th meeting. So that'd be file A44-2021. Does anyone in council have a problem with that? Deputy Mayor Brennan?
No, I was just going to say I'm good with deferring that due to the discrepancy in the figures. So I prefer to see it deferred.
Okay, thank you. So you're moving it?
Yep.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. He's on the line. I had not before. Sorry. Mr. Patton is on the line. Before we get a seconder, would you like to comment, please, Mr. Patton, or provide remarks?
Sure. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, you're clear as a bell.
Okay. Yeah, no, my apologies with the application there. There's a little discrepancy with the gross floor area. We have a lot of covered porch, which we didn't account for. We just accounted for our finished square footage versus that. Another comment we had was on the location of the proposed building. We strategically place it at this spot and location for future development. So we would have an additional 3 lots possibly down the road for future development, 1 to the right and 2 out front of the house. And I specifically left, I think it was 66 feet frontage so we could have access to the back and use it as future development. So I just wanted to comment on that because there was a couple comments, or I believe Dan said there was a comment on location of the building. So I just wanted to touch base on that.
Okay, does anyone in council want any clarification or ask Mr. Patton questions on that? Okay, seeing none. So Deputy Mayor Brennan was going to move that we move the motion. If I have a seconder for that, Councillor Shipley, then I'll call the vote. Any opposed? Okay, so we'll see that item on February 16th then. Thank you very much, Council. Alrighty, and now we can move to section 9, public meetings. We need a motion that Committee of Adjustment reconvene as council to move to planning public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act as amended to consider planning applications listed on the January 26th, 2022 council agenda. Councilor Cates, I saw your hand, and Councilor Heffernan seconding. Thank you. Anyone opposed? And we are now out of in regular session again. So opening this meeting, I'll just make a quick comment that members of the public that are participating virtually in this meeting have provided notification to the municipal clerk in advance of the meeting. If anyone wants to receive any notifications, again, please send an email to planning@middlesexcenter.on.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that any comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record. If you have questions on the applications being heard this evening, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on file. Anyone who's requested to speak will have 5 minutes to address council and provide their comments on the applications. And in keeping with our procedural bylaw and our arsenal policy, I'd like to remind everyone to use respectful language and uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. Again, the proceedings are the same. I will ask the planner to present the report and explain the purpose of the application, and then the applicant or their agent has an opportunity to speak to the application. Any public members will be asked for their comments and their questions. And again, please state your name and address so that the comments can be reflected in the minutes. And then council will ask questions of the applicant and or staff. And then I will ask for motions regarding the applications. So the first item we have tonight is Vital Point Church. And Dan, the file is yours. If you'd like to present your report, please.
Through the chair, thanks, Madam Mayor and members of council. So the purpose and effect of consent application 21/2021 is to sever a parcel of land for lot addition purposes, having an area of approximately 0.4 acres. A parcel of land from 5182 Egremont Drive, and add it to an existing property, which is municipally known as 9890 Ilderton Road. So you can see on this map here, the existing parcel at 5182 is the green and yellow area as identified, and the property at 9890 Ilderton Road is the property that is identified as blue. In this case, the applicant is looking at taking the yellow lands off of 5182 and adding it to the lands at 9890. So the lot addition would add to an existing lot with an area of approximately 1.26 acres, making that combined total lot area of 1.74 acres if approved. The lands receiving the lot addition contain an existing institutional building in Vital Point Church, the associated parking area, as well as they are serviced by private septic and well services. The land would be retained, or sorry, the land to be retained would be approximately 1.27 acres after the removed portion, and contains a commercial building, associated parking areas, and associated private servicing in the format of septic and well systems. The subject are in Hamlet in the Middlesex Center official plan, and they are zoned both an institutional exception I2 zone within the zoning bylaw. So as noted in the purpose and effect, the applicant is requesting a minor boundary adjustment to add the land to the existing lot area for technical purposes. In this case, for providing a sufficient amount of land for the installation of sanitary services for the existing operation. So as noted in the planning report, the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement and does meet the general intent of both the county official plan and local official plan. The minor boundary adjustment is for technical reasons in this case, and is also located within an existing settlement boundary. Any concerns raised during the circulation of the application have been addressed as conditions of consent and listed on the planner's report. So given the above, planning staff are recommending that consent application B21/2021 be approved, subject to the conditions that have been outlined in the planning report. So thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that report. The applicant has not registered to speak, and the clerk has not received any comments. I will now look to council. Are there any questions? Councillor Arts.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Dan. I realize that technically this is one lot, but when you look at the 911 numbers, there's a 9890 and a 9892 on the same property. So just to clean things up, when this is granted, I'd like to get rid of the 1911 number. So somewhere down the road, all of a sudden, this property would be big enough to split down the middle and I'd have 2 lots. So this would just avoid any confusion later. Thank you.
Anything else? I don't see any hands. In that case, we have a motion before us that consent application B21/2021 filed by Vital Point Church in order to sever and convey as a lot addition a 0.4 acre parcel of land from 5182 Egremont Drive and added to an existing property known municipally as 9890 Ilderton Road from a property legally described as part of Lot 4, Concession 9 in the County of Middlesex, Municipality Middlesex Center be granted, and that the application for consent B21/2021 be subject to the 10 conditions that are listed in the report. And further, that the reasons for approving the consent application include that proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement, it conforms to the County of Middlesex official plan and the Middlesex Centre official plan, and the proposal would comply with the Middlesex Centre comprehensive zoning bylaw. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Scott, is there anyone who's opposed? Seeing none, then that is carried, and we can move to 9.2. Again, the floor is yours, Dan, to give the overview for the consent application.
To members of the committee, or sorry, council. So the perfect of this particular application is an amended consent application, which is B1/2021. Which would sever a surplus farm residence on a lot with a frontage of approximately 75.4 meters on Clark Road and an area of approximately 1.19 acres from the remnant farm parcel with a proposed frontage of 261.6 meters on Elginfield Road in an area of approximately 69 acres. The effect would be to dispose of the residence deemed surplus to the Vanderhoovers farm operation as a result of the farm consolidation. So as a note to council, the application was originally heard by council and provisionally approved on March 24, 2021. However, upon survey of the lands, it was found that the location of the driveway to the south and the property boundary to the northwest is larger than initially considered and staked out. This is primarily due to the boundary to the northwest, basically being able to accommodate the existing septic system and the setbacks that are required for the severed lands versus the retained lands. So as such, the applicant has amended their proposal by requesting an additional 12 meters to the frontage along Clark, as well as the resulting additional 0.2 acres to the area. All other aspects of the proposal do remain the same. So given that the PPS County Official Plan and Local Official Plan require sanitary systems to be wholly located within the boundary of the severed lands, and also permit lot areas based on the requirements of servicing, I do find that the request to amend the original approval to be consistent with all 3 aforementioned documents. So based on the above, staff is recommending that amended consent file B1/2021 be approved, subject to all the conditions that are outlined in the planning report.
Okay, thank you for that. The applicant is available for questions for the information of council, And no additional comments received by the clerk. So I will look to the committee then for any comments, questions. Councillor Shipley and then Councillor Arts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just, Dan, I went back to the March 24th, 21 meeting, and the lot was nice and squared off and everything. And now we've got an angle run on it, which we've been trying to avoid. And kind of related to the same question, we've got the field boundary. However, on the west side of the property, it's quite a ways from the proposed boundary. So I'm just wondering why we've got such a difference there of the gap on the one side, on the west side. And I guess back to the original thing, I'd like to see square lots, and we've talked about that before. Thank you.
Through the chair, yeah, no, thank you for that. So I'm sorry, I apologize. I was just actually going to pull up the plan. We can look. Yeah, so the amended consent request initially it came in that they were basically bringing the lot straight across and then straight back this way. The issue that they ran into when out on site is that they were realizing the existing septic bed in the top corner up here necessitated an additional setback out from that area because of the requirements in the building code for a 3-meter offset from a property line. So recognizing that they were trying to minimize the resultant lot area, as opposed to bringing the line straight down and then straight across, they tried to bring the line in and then angled it up. Basically, the result is to keep the severed surplus residential lot as small as possible, while still maintaining full access to these severed lands, as well as meeting the building code requirement. So that's, I know it's not ideal in the grand scheme of things. It shouldn't regardless impact the workable acreage of land. You can kind of see it as the dash boundary around there. But I do agree, it's not the ideal scenario that we like to see the exact squared off lot.
Okay, I guess just back to the original, or the second question was, why is there such a gap on the edge of the cultivated land? If you go to the south end, Dan, there's quite a big area there between the proposed boundary and the cultivated land compared to the north end.
And my apologies, just share my screen. So I'm through the chair to Councillor. I'm assuming you were referring to this particular area right here.
Correct.
Through the chair, it's probably just based on their current operational patterns that they have for the lands. Whether or not they, as a result of the future, would amend that and bring the field closer in to the lot boundary, it's possible. I don't know if the applicant wants to comment on that.
Yep, this is Lisa Vanden Heuvel. The reason that the boundaries there's a tree line there on that edge of the property. And then there's a tree line also on the north, all the way along from the existing property line to right to Clarkside Road.
Okay, so Lisa, there is a tree line on the west side then also, is that correct?
That is correct. No, east side, east, because the west is the roadside, right? West is Clark Road. North is that proposed boundary there where you see the, I don't know, the squiggly lines on the drawing here. That's a tree line. And then where the property is on an angle, kind of going from like 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock, that's a tree line as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sorry, my mistake, east side, yeah, that's fine,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, yep.
So is that everything, Councillor?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. I thought I had another hand. Yes, Councillor Arts.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Dan. This is just a question so that there'll be no confusion on the applicant's part. it's gonna be amended plan, so how much time do they have left to do this now? It'll be another year extension, or just so they know the time frame, so we don't have one of those oops moments? That's all. Thank you.
Through the chair to members of the council. So interesting question, actually. So whenever conditions of consent are amended, a new notice will get sent out, and based on a new notice being sent out, it's based on the date of the new notice. So previously, it would be 1 year from date of the notice of the issuance of the notice, which gets sent out subsequent to provisional approval. However, based on the recent changes to the Planning Act that came into effect as of January 1st, 2022, it is now 2 years. So it would be 2 years from the date of issuance of the notice in this case.
Of the first notice or this notice?
To the chair of this notice.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Dan. I agree with Councillor Shipley too. If we could square that off, what the disadvantages would be. So if we made that square now, how much would that increase the severance? And then I'm assuming that would include the tree line with the house section if they were to square that off. Would that be correct?
So through the chair, I haven't personally worked out numbers myself, so I wouldn't be able to comment on exactly what that would look like. I don't know if the applicant has looked at that at all in the past.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I wondered if the applicant, like, if that would, so we're at 1.19 acres. So if we square that off, would it be 1.4 acres, or maybe, like you said, would that be a problem, or would the tree line be better with the house? I'm assuming it would include that if that was squared off.
This is Lisa. I was always under the impression that we had to keep it as close to a 1 acre severance as possible. So that's why we had them, mark it off like that. But I didn't know that you could go bigger than an acre. Sorry.
Through the chair, maybe I can add something to that as well. So when it comes to surplus dwelling severances where there's existing tree lines, depending on how the severance is working, we would prefer to keep the tree line with the agricultural land or whoever the steward of the land is at that particular point in time, given that we would hope that the tree line is maintained. So in the case of the disposal of a surplus residence, we don't know what the future resident could do with that particular property and removal of those trees. So in these circumstances where the house is subject to disposal, we would prefer to keep the tree line with the agricultural property in hopes that it would be maintained in the future.
Well, thank you for that, Dan. I'm thinking that if the goal is squareness, we've got squareness because of the tree line and that void that falls between the hash mark line and the one that is an angle. The residents are happy with the 1.19. I'm inclined to suggest that we have a proposal before us rather than jump through hoops and do inches here and there. We might just move this forward. That's just my opinion. Are we ready to entertain a motion? If I were to ask, are there any other questions? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Cates, go ahead with your question.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I'm just curious if this is a house that's going to remain, or is this going to be, sold off and the house torn down and a new house built? That was what I was curious about, because it would, if that was the case, also it would mean probably a revised septic bed too.
So the current intent of the house is it's rented out to a local boy.
Okay, thank you for that. If there are no questions, then I'm going to read the motion and we'll see where it goes. Then the Motion before us is the consent application B1 2021 filed by Tony and Lisa Van de Heuvel in order to sever a resident surplus to a farm operation as a result of consolidation on a lot with a frontage of approximately 75.4 meters on Clark Road and in an area of approximately 1.19 acres, and the retained having a frontage of approximately 261.6 meters on Elginfield Road and an area of approximately 69 acres from a lot legally described as Part Lot 4, Concession 16 West in the Township of Middlesex Center in the County of Middlesex be granted, and that the consent application be subject to 12 conditions that are noted in our report. And further, that the reasons for granting the consent application include that it is consistent with the provincial policy statement, it conforms to the Middlesex County official plan as well as our Middlesex Central official plan, and subject to the conditions, the proposal would comply with the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cates and seconded by Councillor Shipley. Is anyone opposed? I don't see any, so that is then granted. Thank you very much, Council. We can now move to 9.3. And this is a consent for severance in Kamoka. And again, Dan, oh, there you are. If you'd like to present an overview of the planning report, please.
Thank you, Mayor and members of Council. So, the purpose of this consent application today, B22/21, is respect to sever an existing residential lot to establish new lot by splitting the existing lot basically in half, with a frontage of approximately 27.7 meters on Railway Avenue in an area of 848.5 square meters. For both parcels, the severed and remnant. Effective proposal would be to create a new residential lot for the purpose of establishing a new single detached residence. The subject property as a whole is 0.4 in area, and it is a residential parcel which is located in the Kamoka-Kilworth settlement area secondary plan. It is on the north side of Railway Avenue. It's west of the intersection at Railway and Tunks Lane. The lands are municipally known also as 165 Railway Avenue. The property does contain an existing single detached dwelling, a detached garage, and it is on full municipal services. The existing home is built on the eastern portion of the property, which suits itself, northeastern portion, which suits itself quite well to potential severance, for instance, as the western portion is vacant. Access to the lands is provided again through Railway Avenue. The lands are designated residential in the local official plan and zoned an urban residential first density exception UR1-3 zone in Middlesex Center zoning bylaw. The lands are surrounded by residential single detached dwellings to the east and west, a CN rail corridor to the north, and a residentially zoned land to the south for immediate residential housing. Notice of the application was circulated to agencies as well as properties in advance of the meeting and in accordance with the Planning Act requirements. Planning did receive one comment noon or this morning in the proposal, raising questions of a variance setbacks to the CN rail right of way and building setback to the road. Through circulation of the application, it was noted that CN rail did not have an objection with the proposal. However, they have listed the requirement of an environmental easement that be placed on the property, which typically identifies future landowners and tenants of the noise and vibration impact of the existing rail lines, and also for consideration of design criteria for the building, noise impacts. Also, the provincial policy statement, county official plan, and local official plan permit lot creation and promote infill and intensification to achieve growth objectives within settlement boundaries where appropriate. The subject lands are municipally serviced and abut an existing municipal road. Services are available to connect from the road in this instance. The proposed lot is capable of meeting the minimum requirements through the issuance of a minor variance, which has been included as condition number 14 of the consent. This type of development is the preferred form, as it does promote a more efficient use of existing lands within while also reducing the need for an expansion of the settlement boundary area. Given the above, planning staff are recommending that the subject application be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined in the report. And I see that my screen has turned off, so I'm hoping that you can actually hear me.
It was better when you turned it off. Thanks for doing that. Okay, I've been advised that the applicant, Mr. Al-Madani, is available for questions. There have been no other comments received by the clerk, so I will look to the committee for any comments, questions, clarifications. Yes, Councillor Kate. Kate, go ahead, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Dan. So I have a few things I'm trying to get through my head here. So I have been to this property before, and in opening up the other attachment that gives all of the dimensions. So I was included in the email with that person's questions about the setbacks, etc. So I just have a few things that I want to sort of put together and have you, hopefully you can answer that. So I was under the impression that the railway would want, like my very first thought when I looked at this, I was under the impression that the railway would want 30 meters, no building within 30 meters of their property. I recall from the one we just did next door to my house, that I thought there was a 30-meter buffer there. So that then brings me to think, if on this drawing attached to the file, oh, that's meters, it's really going to mess me up now, but we've got 11 meters from the tracks to the property line. Like, are we even fulfilling the setback? And perhaps you're saying that the railway didn't advise that they wanted one, and maybe that's a different rail set of tracks, CN and CP, I'm not sure. And then you talked about there being, I'm assuming you mean a berm along there. Like, I've been at this house before, and this railway tracks is right there at the backyard, right there. So if it's suggesting a berm, was another one of my, and I get it. You know, I get what you're saying about the provincial policy statement and the creation of lots, etc. I just want to make sure that we're doing this right. And certain things in your recommendation call for a minor variance later. I believe that the 848, I think, is what you're referring to, that it is less than what the square footage of the lot is supposed to be. So I would hate for this gentleman to get set up for being okay now, but then he's not going to be okay later when he needs a minor variance in order to do this. You know, sort of like you say yes to a severance today, but then he can't meet the minor variance situation. So, you know, let's talk about that now, I guess. The other thing that I wondered about, now, the railway has talked about the noise and a berm or whatever, but we also have the noise study, if you recall, that was done on the property across the road, the wellness center lands there, that development is happening, and they had to do a noise study because of the mill. And there will be some things applied to the land of those, the people that purchased those properties. So I just wanted to, you know, put a reminder there. For this property, we've got the railway noise and we've got that noise from the mill.
Dan?
Yeah, through the chair. Sorry, I was taking notes.
Oh, good. Don't say repeat yourself.
Yeah, no, did you have more comments you wanted to make, or do you want me to just address?
No, I think I got them all out. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. No, so, yeah, no, I mean, you definitely raised some good points there. So you are correct. The existing zoning provisions in the bylaw require a 30-meter setback for the building face abutting a railway corridor. So I do agree that given the size of the lot proposed, there is a potential conflict there for development of that lands in the future. However, you know, in these instances, I tend to defer to the professionals and their area expertise. So the fact that CN didn't raise concern about that and didn't object to the establishment of a new lot, to me would make me think that they believe that it is potentially appropriate, and there are mitigation strategies that can be used in the actual building of the house to limit the potential noise impact on those lands. And just for clarification, that entire parcel is owned by CN Rail, so it's not CP versus CN, it's all CN. So yeah, they actually, you are correct. They would potentially require a minor variance to reduce that 30-meter setback requirement from a rail line, which would be something that would be considered in the future prior to building permit issuance. And we would only support that in the instance that they were able to satisfy the criteria. Correct. That had and looked at good. Everyone still hear me?
Not really. I'm sorry, Dan. You're breaking up badly tonight.
Bear with with respect to the berm, that's something that Rob had raised in circulation. That may be for mitigation that they produce on this particular parcel to actually build a residence. So, and that may be part of their noise study and investigation prior to issuance of a building permit. For lot area, you are correct. They would require as required as a condition of the recommended consent. The lot area in this case, it's zoned a UR13 lot, which is more so tailored towards the older, larger lot styles that were located in Kamoka, which were on private services in the past and no longer are. So I would suggest the lot area variance is something that could be considered appropriate, given that there are already existing conditions along the stretch of Railway Avenue that you see this exact lot size on adjacent lands to the north. And then you raised an interesting question about the existing facility, the mill located in close proximity. So same scenario as the CN Rail. They would have to satisfy noise criteria prior to the issuance of a building permit. So they would have to effectively demonstrate that they're able to meet the noise criteria for the Ministry of Environment inside in livable spaces as well as the outside spaces as well. So that is something that they would have to satisfy in the future.
Dan, if I may, did you say that the the mitigation pieces would have to be addressed?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay. I just thought I'd repeat that because I was taking that from your comment, but it wasn't clear. So just for the record, then I think everyone in council's got that then. Councillor Cates, did you have further questions on this then?
Yes, so a couple of comments. So Dan, if it's 804, the severed lot is 848, what's the normal number that we like to have? Square feet of a lot normally in a UR1-3? I do understand what you're saying about some smaller could be possible. I'm just wondering that number.
So through the chair, the existing one rezone or 930 square meter lot. So you're looking at an instance of effective 70 deficit.
Thank you. And the other thing that I quickly figured out on the drawing, the really dark, the extra attachment that was provided to us, it looks like I'm assuming this is telling me that the railroad tracks to the lot line 11 meters, that's actually is 33 feet. So if they had to be 30 feet from the house to the tracks, they actually meet that. They're actually 33 feet from the edge of the track to the fence line.
So through the chair, that's what has been provided for information with the application. Yes.
Okay. I think that's my question.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cates. Is there anyone else? Yes, Councillor Arts. Go ahead.
Through your Madam Mayor to Dan, I just, if that house for some reason the back of it needs a minor variance to the distance to the railway tracks, it's CN Rail that dictates whether that minor variance goes. We have no control over issuing a minor variance when it involves the distance to a railway track, do we?
Through the chair, it would be the committee to issue the variance because that is a standard bylaw for section 4.18. However, we would rely on the expertise of the railway in that instance for a recommendation.
Thank you.
If I can paraphrase again, so what you're saying is we would rely on the railroad to nod and smile and agree and say, yes, it's okay, but we would actually do the issuance. We would make sure that the bylaw is executed.
Through the chair, yes.
Okay. I see Councillor Cates waving her arm.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think to answer Councillor Arts's thing, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but we would have a minor variance for the size of the lot being 848, not 930. Is that not correct, Dan?
Through the chair, yes. So for the physical consent, the variance that would be required is the size of the lot. For future development of that lot, they would require a variance to reduce the setback to the rail line. So there effectively are two variances for consideration of consent.
Yes, Councillor Cates.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So just to clarify, tonight, we are just discussing severing it off. And here's the list of things. The future will be any of these variances that we're talking about, correct?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. So tonight would only be issuance of provisional consent, subject to the conditions outlined in the report.
And there are 15, I think. Yeah.
Through the chair, yeah, that's correct.
Is there anything else? Okay. I guess I just want to make sure does the proponent, the applicant, understand the questions? And yeah, okay, I see you nodding. Is there anything you'd like to add at this point?
Yeah. I just would like to clarify the points about setbacks, minor variance. I was familiar with the numbers. However, now it was saying about 30 feet from the starting of the house to the rail lines. And how much is supposed to be?
Dan, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, through the chair. As per section 4.1, the requirement is 30 meters from the right of way of the railroad to the two lines of the house.
30 meters.
Correct.
And now it's 30 foot, right?
So it's 30 meters, Dan, not 30 feet?
Yeah, correct.
Yes, that's correct. 30 meters on the right, not rail. So it's even beyond where the rail line is.
Yeah, not the track.
Correct.
Okay. All right, if there are no other questions or comments, I'll read the motion and we'll take it from there then. The consent application B22, 2021, filed by Hussam Al-Madani on behalf of 133222068 Canada Incorporated in order to sever a residential lot with a frontage of approximately 27.7 meters on Railway Ave and an area approximately of 848.5 square meters, and the retained parcel, a frontage of approximately 27.7 meters on the same street with an area of 848.5 meters, again on a property municipally known as 165 Railway Ave, be granted, and that the consent B22/2021 be subject to 15 conditions listed in the report recommendation. And further, that the reasons for granting the application include that it is consistent with the provincial policy statement, it conforms with the Middlesex County Official Plan and the Middlesex Centre Official Plan, and subject to the conditions, the proposal is capable of complying with Middlesex Centre Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw. Is there a mover? Councillor Councillor Arts, and Councillor Scott is seconding. Is anyone opposed? And that is carried then. Thank you very much, and thank you, Dan, for bearing with us. There are no notices of motion tonight, and so we can now move to correspondence. We have items 11.1 through 11.7. Is there anything here that anyone wants to comment on or question? All right, I don't see anything. So the first item 11.1 is the one that the motion includes the support for. So I'll read the whole motion. It's that the correspondence items 11.1 through 11.7 be received as information, and that the Municipality of Middlesex Centre support the January 11th, 2022 Middlesex County Resolution regarding trustee distribution for the Thames Valley District School Board. Do I have a mover, please? And a seconder. Deputy Mayor Brennan and Councillor Cates. Any opposed? And that carries. Thank you very much. We don't have a county council update, except I can comment that we've had our first budget meeting today, and Deputy Mayor Brennan will bring us up to speed on that when it's finished. So the only other thing here is other business, and there are no items. And then we have bylaws. The motion is that bylaws 2021, 011 through bylaw 2022, 015 be adopted as printed. And do I have mover? Councillor Cates and Councillor Arts. Oh, sorry, you have a question. I'm sorry, pardon me.
Yeah, one of these things isn't to be accepted, it's deferred, isn't it?
Oh, yes, let me check and see here. No, it was recommended as deferred. Nothing new has been deferred. The motion to defer was part of our agenda. Yes.
No, the Phil Patton one, or is it not in here? The one on Harris Road?
There's nothing in there for Harris Road.
No, the clerk has confirmed there's nothing there.
I just wanted to, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so again, the bylaws 2022 11 through 15 be adopted as printed. And it's moved by Councillor Shipley and seconded by Councillor Heffernan. Anyone opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. And now the motion to adjourn that Council for the Municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourns to January 26th, 2021 council meeting at 7:50 p.m. And that is moved by Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Scott. Thank you. Any opposed? And that is carried. Thank you very much, Council. And